So how healthy are all of your finances? How's it all working out? Middling? Okay, well let's see if we can help you in this super short little burst of information to give you some guidance. And if it doesn't cover enough, then we're just down on stand, just down there. You'll find Crunch. So first of all, I need a little clicker, don't I? Let's find that. An arrow. Cool. Right. Well, as you know, my name's Darren Fell, and the far more important person than me is Lucinda, who knows all about accounting. I don't. I was the mad person to set up an online accounting service 10 odd years ago, and I'm not an accountant because I wanted to change the way accountancy was delivered. So anything accountancy technical, Lucinda is going to go through that as our deputy head of the whole accountancy section, which is one of our biggest sections, of course. So a little bit about me. I'm that mad entrepreneur that got fed up with corporate life and wanted to go and do something. So I remember walking into my sales director's office and saying, I quit because I'm going to go and do some mad project. And my mad project was an online party portal called partytastic.com. And I thought partytastic.com was going to be the best thing ever. I was going to make millions out of running online parties, but of course I wasn't. So the email and the SMS engine that I created to get people to the parties turned into Pure 360, which is still going incredibly strong today as one of the top email marketing firms turned personalized e-commerce system, and it's apparently going into its next strength of growth, which is really, really good to hear. So that was the first thing I started, incredibly hard, no money. I got car loans for cars that didn't exist. We worked out of a bungalow at the back of Brighton Station with some developers in one bedroom and me in the other, cold calling madly to try and create a full email marketing system that people could use. But we won Levi's, Innocent Drinks, RS Components, Starbucks via their agency Wheel, and like endless clients. But after a while, I got a little fed up with email. We were anti-spam, vehemently anti-spam. So we used to turn off customers even if they were paying us £30,000 a month. So it's like, this world, I need to get out of it. And this chap, ex-HMRC, Steve Crouch, an accountant, approached me with an idea for a bit of software for freelancers and contractors, exactly you. Except he was going to run it on a little PC underneath his desk in his accountancy practice. And I went, oh, no. You can't do that. That's really, really silly. But wait a minute, I've had some really bad experiences with accountants. They took me on board, they gave me a fantastic first meeting, and then they never called me back, but they carried on taking my money. Surely we can change all of that. We can have an accountant on the end of the phone, on the end of video, on the end of email, answering all the queries, and an account manager, and the software that shows you the tax live. So that's what I created in my complete madness while I was still running Pure 360, and then I sold Pure 360 and I had the operation of Crunch just about starting across the road. So I picked up my chair after signing on the dotted line. I took a little bit of money in cash, walked across the road, and we carried on building up Crunch. So it launched in 2009, April 2009, and I'd bought my cheap little Panasonic phone from Dixon's and my little headset, and I started calling. But prior to that cold calling, I'd built up a site called Freelance Advisor back in mid-2008 to genuinely help the freelancers and contractors in the country. Everything from how to create an invoice, how to network, how to create a strong personal brand, anything I could think of from all of my years of experience as an entrepreneur and building up a business. So that's how we became a knowledge portal. Now, over the last 3 years, that's all been melded into the heart of Crunch. So we go and do presentations like this to help. We may sell the odd accountancy service. That's great. But if we can help and get your finances all sorted, then absolutely perfect. Just to finish, yeah, we're about 11,000 clients now, and I've got 180 lovely people all down in Brighton, which I desperately tried to get up from today on the train. So where we started is to do the most complex thing, and that's limited company accountancy. We think that's the best, the strongest, the most protective status you can actually get. So we deal with a majority of freelancers and contractors, and limited companies, micros up to about 5 employees. We're now moving into small business up to 50, and of course we're going to do self-assessments, personal accounting, and making tax digital. So that's a tiny little bit about us. But now on to you. As you know, we help tens of thousands of people, well, 11,000 at this point. But via the next extension of Freelance Advisor, which is a community called Crunch Chorus, we have helped tens of thousands of people, and we're putting all of this knowledge on there. So there's this whole free thing you can sign up to, a free invoicing system, endless guides that we spent months writing on how to do your self-assessment, how to get a mortgage as a freelancer, what insurance to take, all the things that you keep asking yourself. How can I make sure I'm okay and I don't fall apart, or my finances worse fall apart? So I think well, our sort of checkpoint in figures in October, we served over 220,000 visits to the knowledge base, giving people free guides. It's like probably a good 7,000 people using the free invoicing system in there. So if that sounds useful, then please join up, completely free. We will never charge for that, and we will carry on pumping anything I can find that's a benefit for you in there. And as I say, if my sell-in to my board is if I get a couple of accounts out of it, fantastic. But otherwise, they're pleased for me to support me on that. So this is the main options we see. Sole trader, if you're just starting out, but very, very quickly, it probably becomes a necessity to go limited. And we can help you at exactly that right point and why. And if you're on a client site, definitely to go limited. But I am not the expert. Lucinda is the expert on that, and she'll help guide you. But don't worry, if we haven't answered all your questions, come to the stand and we'll be there to answer all your questions. So it's really not quite a black and white situation, but it's about flexibility. As a sole trader, you tend to meld all of your own finances in with your personal ones. We recommend a separate business bank account, even if you are a sole trader. It makes life so much simpler. And we'll tell you exactly those points to go on limited. We, of course, have the lovely government sort of treading its size 11s all over the contractor area with IR35, but we've got a whole team there to protect our customers from making a mistake there. If you're working for one customer and you've been working for them for year on year, then, well, it's likely you might be inside that tax rule of IR35, but we can help you or tell you what you need to do. So it may be time to hand over to Lucinda.
Hi, good morning everyone. Thank you so much for coming along this morning to come and listen to me talk to you today about your companies, your businesses and your finances. I've been working with small businesses now for over 12 years, and I'm really passionate about working with entrepreneurs and people that are in their own business. I'm completely driven by their creativity and their determination, and over those 12 years I've been trying to break the mold of being a boring accountant, so hopefully I will give you some inspiration today to help you with your finances. I'm going to be covering 5 topics today. First off, the taxes. I think we should all know, and we all want to know, what tax we have to pay to HMRC. Paying yourself from your business, it's probably the reason why most of us are here today. You want to know what you can get out of your business. There is administration. So whether it's to do with the setup of your business, or maybe it's the filing deadlines, the payment deadlines, I want to make that simple for you so you don't find that a burden. The expenses that you have as a business, there are a great variety, and I certainly won't be listing them all off for you today, but I just want to give you some key pointers, and more importantly on that one, I want to make sure it's clear on the definition of what makes a business expense so you're not lost in that world. Finally, I'm going to make a few comments about IR35 and the reform that happened in the budget. Please don't lose me on that one. I don't want to make it dull, but it may impact you if you're a limited business. So there's things you can do to prepare yourself for that. Great. So we're going to start with the biggest one in the room. It is those taxes. Now, whether you're a sole trader or a limited company, there are a variety. And I should say, although in this presentation I'm talking about sole traders and limited companies, these obviously aren't your only options. You can come and talk to me afterwards if you've got another setup or you're thinking about something else. But to keep it simple, I'll just be comparing the two this morning. The tax that affects both types of businesses is VAT, or value-added tax. Now, value-added tax is added to most goods and services in the UK and the EU. So typically you'll see that added to consultancy, photography, web design, and there are different rates of VAT to apply. What you'll typically see is the 20%, which is known as the standard rate of VAT. But it does depend on the service or products you're supplying. So it is important to talk to your accountant, to talk to us today, to find out if you're applying the right rate. Now, where we start with this is if you need to register for VAT, your taxable supplies, so these are the sales that you make in your business, they need to be over 85,000 or you knowingly are going to exceed that value. When you're in that position, you're going to need to register for VAT. What will happen then is your business will be charging VAT, but it will also be able to reclaim the VAT on any expenses where you see that on any invoice or expense receipt. Typically what you get then under a standard scheme registration, you will then complete a VAT return every quarter. You'll pay over the VAT due to HMRC. So that's for either type of a sole trader or a limited business. Focusing now just on a sole trader. So this might be some of you here today. A sole trader is you as an individual in business. So what you'll need to be focusing on is you'll be self-employed. And you pay your tax on your business profits. Now your business profits are quite simply your sales less expenses. And the types of taxes you pay are your income tax and national insurance. I won't bore you today with all of those lovely rates and details, but if you have some numbers and you want to talk to me after specifically, I'd be more than happy to clarify what some of those rates are. Moving on to the limited company now. The limited company is usually set up with directors and shareholders, so that might be your setup today, and that might be something you're already thinking about or you've already proceeded with. Now with that setup, you will pay corporation tax on the company's profits. And again, simply those profits are the sales less the expenses. Most people probably that I'm going to be talking to today are known as micro-entities. So it's a small company within the UK and they pay corporation tax at 19% on those profits. And as I said, with your setup, you often are a director and a shareholder. Now, as a director and shareholder, you're probably taking your income out of the business via salary and dividends, and maybe a combination of that. If you've sought some advice on that, you're probably most likely having a basic salary and maybe some dividends. Now, those income is reported on the self-assessment and also through the company's payroll. So it's really important to understand what your business is, what your profits are, so that you're able to make the decision between the two types of options available that we're talking about today. Because the difference can mean, obviously, a huge difference in what you pay in taxes and what you actually have to take home at the end of the day, which is what we're all here to do. Okay. Now, as you can see on the screen at the moment, I've just pasted up an example of paying yourself. Again, I won't go through the detailed calculations. I'm just going to take a moment here just to pause and just talk about some key points on this screen for you. So this example here is looking at a sole trader and also a limited company. It's assuming that the business is taking everything out of the business. The business is not VAT registered and they don't have any other income for another source. As you can see in the top line, what we're looking at here is the difference in what your sales could be and therefore what your taxable profits may be. And actually you can see down at the bottom, your difference in take-home pay can vary quite a lot. So when I say to you, have a think about what your business profits are, it is really important because some early stages of business, it doesn't maybe make that much of a difference. However, as the business grows, you can see sometimes quite a big difference in what you're able to take home and what you're able to take home in after those taxes. Okay. Great. So when you've been thinking about your business, you've planned what your sales are going to be, you've had to think about your expenses, you've made your decision about whether you're going to be a sole trader or maybe a limited company, what you need to know is then how to set that up. As I said before, if you're a sole trader, you're an individual. So it's you in business being self-employed. I would recommend that you get registered for self-employment with HMRC. And when do you need to do that by? You need to complete that registration by the 5th of October after the tax year ends in the year that you commence trade. So let me just explain that one with a quick example. So if you commence trade today, then your first tax year end would be the 5th of April 2019, and therefore you'd need to register by the 5th of October 2019. Okay, that gets you registered to being self-employed. Every year then you would complete a self-assessment and you report on there the business profits that you had. So all those sales, all those expenses. Key thing to note at this stage, there is a notion now for HMRC called MTD. MTD is Making Tax Digital. You might need to be prepared for this if you're self-employed, and you certainly will definitely need to be prepared for that for VAT, so we discussed earlier. If you're registered for VAT and those sales are over 85,000, MTD will come into place. Now, nothing to worry about on this point here. MTD is the way of filing, basically. So it's an online filing system. So all of the paper has now been removed. What it means is that you need to potentially use either HMRC's software or talk to a company like ours. We have compatible software. We work with HMRC to make sure all our clients can file if they need to through MTD. Okay. If you've made your decision to be a limited company now, so this is you now registered as a limited company and you're most likely the director or shareholder, you're going to need to register first the company at Companies House. So Companies House is the big register of all the limited companies here in the UK. Every year you will file annual accounts with Companies House, and it's most likely that you're going to be potentially a small business to start off with. So if you're a small business, the information that you file at Companies House is very limited. There's not really a detailed profit and loss account, but what you do need to know that they are on public record, so anyone can see that information if they find the company and download any of the reports. The company would also need to file a confirmation statement. And a confirmation statement is a snapshot, basically, of the general information about the company at a point in time. So it will detail what the registered office is, who the directors are, who's a person of significant control, so who's got the majority shareholding in the company. Alongside that, the company would also need to register at HMRC. It's possible that they will most likely to register for 3 types of taxes with HMRC. We talked about the corporation tax. So this is the company paying corporation tax on those profits, and they complete a tax return known as a CT600 every year. They're most likely also to register for VAT, again, if those sales are over 85,000, and do the VAT return filings. And finally, there may be that you want to pay yourself salary from your limited company, so you'll need to register the company for payroll, and so you'll need to be registered for PAYE. They also will have some filing deadlines, and also if you're paying any taxable benefits, so if you're receiving any private medical as a company director, or if you're paying that to employees, then you'll need to make those filings as well. This is all for the company. As I explained, as you're a director and you're receiving salary and dividends from your limited company, that salary is going through a payroll, but those dividends go on your self-assessment. So you'll also need to register for the self-assessment as well. There's a lot to take in. So what I would say at this point is just take down the key points at this stage. There are different filing deadlines, not just to file the returns, to file the accounts, but to pay the taxes. I'd say is register with us. I have a handy guide that details all of this, so you can just be prepared and you can have a look and to see how it associates with your business circumstances. Okay, so I wanted to give you some clarification this morning on expenses. And like I said, I wasn't going to run through a whole list of what you could claim, but more, if you want to talk to me afterwards, tell me about your business and what you're doing. I can look at what expenses you should be claiming, what you typically might receive. But what I wanted to get across this morning, in particular with expenses, is what is a business expense? So the business expense should always be something that relates to that trade. What it does, obviously, the expenses are being deducted off those sales, and so giving you a profit. Now that profit is then taxed. Now HMRC have a rule, and it's tax relief on those expenses. What we need to make sure that if those expenses are in the business, are they giving you that tax relief? And so what HMRC say is that those expenses need to be wholly, exclusively and necessary for the purpose of the trade. So to put that into context for you this morning, you possibly are travelling to go and see a client, maybe to go for a meeting. So that cost of that travel is definitely related to that trade, and therefore you must claim that expense and it gives you tax relief. The reverse to all of that, maybe you then take that client out, I don't know, you go to the cinema or something like that, go and see the latest film. That isn't necessarily an expense that is going to give you tax relief. It might be a business expense, but it's unlikely then to give you tax relief. HMRC will say they can't see the relation then between that expense and the purpose of the trade. Okay. Great. So I just want to give you key tips with expenses. At the moment, I think we're all buying things here, there and everywhere. You can take photos of your receipts. You can get electronic copies of your receipts. The key tip here is definitely keep all of your business records for at least 6 years, okay? So that's the minimum that you need to maintain them for. So that's all of your sales, all of your expenses. Digital is perfectly acceptable these days. You can use a variety of means, whether it's an Excel spreadsheet, whether it's online software such as Crunch. It's perfectly acceptable, and it's obviously a lot simpler. I say to people, keep yourself up to date, do this regularly, do little and often, and you'll actually find that running a business and maintaining your records doesn't become too taxing. We already mentioned business bank account. It's a clear one for me. Definitely if you have a limited company, because it's a separate legal entity, but if you're a sole trader, it's just nice and clear for you, gives you complete clarity over what's your income and what's your business. Sounds boring, but do so for the taxes. When you know what taxes you need to pay, putting that little bit aside every time you take something out of the business will just keep you comfortable that you're prepared for the tax. There'll be no hidden surprises at the end of the tax year. So before I summarise, I just wanted to touch on this hot topic at the moment, which is the IR35 subject. IR35, in a nutshell, is disguised income by means that actually the person is a deemed employee. So a lot of us may work through a limited company, either via an agency, and we're often working for an end client. That's what the IR35 legislation is looking at. It's this potential that the individual going through that mechanism is actually really an employee. And so what we're saying at this stage is that if that contract is falling under IR35, then what will it mean? It means that any income from that contract is actually assessed as payroll. And so taxes are then deducted at source from an end client. And why do I say this now? The legislation's always been around, but HMRC are paying a lot more attention to it at the moment. If you're in the public sector, you potentially are a limited company already, you're probably already potentially affected by this. So you probably are more comfortable with what I'm talking about. But they're now going to extend it to the private sector. What's the key message here? Is that the end client, so the person that you're working for, is the one that determines your IR35 status. This is a key change in the legislation. What they're looking at now is that the end client, if they're medium or large, from the 1st of April 2020 will be the one making the assessment on your status. So a lot of us can work for very, very large end clients, which means they're going to be the people that may be saying that you're no longer really a contractor. They now deem you as an employee. So all of that income that you were earning through that contract is now assessed as payroll. So it makes a big, big difference. As we saw, the take-home pay can suddenly change dramatically. What would I say to do now? I would say, if that is your situation, chat with your end client, have a discussion with your agency and see what they're doing to prepare for that reform. We still have a bit of time, but it's best to be prepared to know where you stand on your contract. Great. So before I hand you back to Darren, I just wanted to give you a very brief summary of what I've been discussing this morning. So before you make your decision on your business, or if you've already made it, assess those profits. Have a look to see what might be the best options for you to then withdraw out from the business. With administration and any filings, set reminders, get organised so you haven't got any surprises and no deadlines are missed. With your expenses, quite simply keeping your records and just checking that those expenses are going to give rise to your tax relief, so making sure we follow the rule about wholly, exclusively and necessary. And finally, again, a bit boring, but save for the taxes, but know what you have to pay. Come and talk to me, come and talk to your accountants, make sure you understand the tax that you need to pay so you can save for the future. I'm sure you're going to have plenty of questions, so I just welcome you to come and find us at stand E5. Come and talk to me about your business, tell me what you're doing, and we can help you along the way. Thank you.
Useful? Yeah? Good, good. Well, that's why, as a non-accountant, when I set up Crunch, I had to surround myself with absolutely brilliant accountants to actually make Crunch feasible. So, no, it's really good. The amount of people we help every day, the amount of tax that's saved, and helping make their businesses work while you deliver what you're brilliant at. So, just a tiny bit more about us. So if accounting wasn't a complex enough thing for me to tackle, so we have a whole fintech team building systems that deliver live tax, connect to the bank, connect to HMRC and Companies House with the accountants and account manager. I decided that the mortgages and the mortgage companies were being really unfair out there. So after year one, all of the customers that I personally brought on board the business were being told no to get a mortgage from their own bank they've been with since they were at college or at school, and just left school. So I went out and found an amazing mortgage brokerage that deals with self-employed freelancers, contractors, micro business owners. And those brokers sit within the Crunch team in Brighton. So we've not really pushed it. It's wherever customers actually need help or they keep getting rejected by broker or lender. So we've done about, I think it's 110 million in lending value. So we know exactly what to do and how to get the mortgage through for you, depending on your earnings. So that feels really good that we've helped in that area. Equally mad of me to try and create an insurance company for self-employed, going to Lloyd's of London and hand creating it, but we've done it. So it's a PI insurance to cover all of your creative services you deliver out there, and of course investments and pensions. If we can do the tax efficiency that Lucinda talks about, then there's the extra tax efficiency by putting a pension through your business. So that's another thing to consider after you've got your finances all perfectly humming along beautifully. So. And I mentioned it earlier on, a real passion of mine is to help. And with Freelance Advisor that was set up in 2008 with endless content, thousands of articles to help in every which way, not just accountancy and tax, we've created Crunch Chorus, so that actually has meetups at the moment in Brighton. But in every way to help. There's a Facebook group. There's so many guides that we've spent literally months on, as I said before. There's free invoicing, and wherever, as I said before, if we can find other things, I will bolt into Chorus to help you. So join the Facebook group and ask if there's anything you're stuck with and you want to see in a community like this, then let us know and I will go out and hunt for it and put it into the Chorus group. Again, always run for free. I want to help all of you and the freelancers and contractors and micro businesses. As an entrepreneur, I love creating business, and I hate it when people like fall foul of things and have to go back to jobs that they don't really want to do. So crunch.co.uk/chorus, and that's it. So come down. We're just down there. I'm going to go and grab a coffee. Any questions you've got, come and ask. You can ask me if you want accountancy technical and tax advice. Lucinda, we've got Ben, and we've got Sophie downstairs as well. So thanks so much. Hope it's been useful.